Yes.
Very good evening to all of you, and good morning to Farrokh. And so, friends, it is a real great pleasure that the earlier, seminar we couldn't have because of actually some problem, but we have been able to reschedule it to today, and Farrokh has kindly agreed for this on this day. And one good thing is actually, as per our record, as you see, the number of people who registered earlier, that thing has really gone up. I do not know actually how many will be joining. So, and I'm sure that the weather God will actually help us, and there will not be any problem this time. So with this remark, I would like to invite all of you, those who are present, to this rescheduled 10th lecture of organized by IINE Bhubaneswar, SOA University and IMMT Bhubaneswar. And today we have a very eminent speaker with us. He is no other than Professor Farrokh Mistree. And Professor Mistree is a graduate of IIT Kharagpur. He graduated in naval architecture, did his master's and PhD from University of California, Berkeley. And apart from doing his PhD, from that institute, he also found out his life partner, Janet. And what Farrokh says, that if somebody is a professor, that is the best job that what he can expect. And it will be still better if his spouse also happens to be a professor. And in his case, both are true. And I'm sure actually his two sons are also joining the same line. Now, Professor Farrokh, he had currently actually he is the LAComp chair in the School of Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering at the University of Oklahoma in Norman. Professor Janet Allen and Farrokh co-direct the Systems Realization Laboratory at Oklahoma University. Their research focus is on defining the emerging frontiers of evolving cyber physical systems, which, when the computational models are incomplete and inaccurate. Farrokh has co-authored 2 textbooks, 5 research monograms, and more than 500 technical papers dealing with the design of materials, mechanical, thermal, and structural subsystems, ships, aircraft, engineered supply networks, and he is also born and brought up from in actually Pune, and now he is helping Telco Pune, also situated in his birthplace, and a lot of work actually is he and Janet are doing. And Professor Farrokh is really a devoted teacher, and in his whole career, he has been always associated with teaching and developing good teachers. He is also a distinguished alumnus of IIT Kharagpur and a fellow of ASME and associate fellow of AIAA. Now, Professor Farrokh will give his talk. After as brief speech by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who will be leaving very shortly because of some other organization thing. And Professor Mahapatra will, may I request you to say a few words about this university for the benefit of those actually who are present here. Professor Mahapatra, please.
Good morning to Dr. Farrokh and good morning to the people of Europe and our friends across India. I must thank Professor Acharya for having a brilliant idea to have these lectures. We have also started a fortnightly SOFAL lectures where our university organize lectures from across the specialty, including philosophy, spiritualism, economics, and all these for our students. Our university, a very young university, started in 2007, but its conception was established in 1995, Shiksha O Anusandhan, which literally means Education and Research Trust. It started an engineering school in 1996, followed by management, nursing, medical science, dental science, agricultural science, management science, hotel management, and now recently we have added veterinary sciences. We have about 10 institutes, including nursing and dental, and we have a strong medical fraternity in which we also contributed the co-vaccine for COVID development. So the university status given to our institute in 2007 and a graded university status by the UGC, University Grant Commission of India, in 2018. We also have international and national rankings, and in current ranking of NAC, we got 3.88 out of 4, and in the past, 2009 and 2015, we were given A plus grade. We have around 15,000 students, 1,400 plus teachers, 400, four campuses with about 500 acres of land, and our teacher-student male-female ratio is 37% and 63% female and male, and girl students are 47%. So most of our students are in-house in the hostel because they are across India, and for last several years we get international students from 15 to 16 countries. So the medical college school, which contributed tremendously during COVID investigation, vaccine investigation, and also doing PCR on all type of tests for COVID, had 2,700 beds across 6 districts. I myself suffered thrice from COVID, never dared to take leave because I have to motivate my faculty and students to work for the COVID patient. So the university now ranks in India 21 amongst the 800, 900 universities. Medical college ranked 20 and engineering college ranked 32. This year we are going to ask for the ranking of the evaluation of management and law and agriculture maybe. So the vision of this trust was to have quality education, socially concerned topics for local and regional development, and also the well-being of the people. Large number of socially activities, like we have a wellness center. We have given yoga classes for last 2 months, and because the International Yoga Day is 21st of June, every day I give 10 minutes talk on Bhagavad Gita. The question is that why do you do this? This was the vision of the university to have quality education. To some extent we have quality services. Currently we have 1,800 beds, around 500 faculty in medical school. We have medical school having graduate, postgraduate and super special degrees. Cardiac surgery, neurosurgery, oncosurgery, medical oncology, surgical oncology, and about 15 super specialties. And more importantly, we look across the poor cross section of the society. a person can manage to have brain tumor surgery with 50,000 rupees, that is less than $1,000. And we have done recently liver transplant, bone marrow transplant, or kidney transplant is a regular features. So I think the university has lived up to the expectation of poor people of Odisha and may be constantly improving. So I give credit to all our previous VCs, our trust, and the president above all, who had a vision, and his step of roadmap and implementation have been exemplary. So I thank you again, all of you, that you are with us this evening to hear the brilliant talk going to be delivered at the early morning of 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock at Oklahoma by Professor Farrokh, who was in the brilliant citizen boy, student, product of India and IIT Kharagpur. Thank you, Dr. Farrokh. Thank you all, including our friend Dr. Madhusudan Chakrabarty, and more importantly, thank Dr. Acharya, who is the mastermind with all experience of last 50 years or so. Thank you very much, sir. Maybe I have to leave in 10 minutes because I have another meeting.
No, no. Thank you, Professor Mahapatra. Now, may I request Professor Basu, Director IMMT, if you are present, would you like to really say a few words about your institute? IMMT is our co-organizer for this program.
His name is not there.
Professor Basu, is he there? I find one BS.
Sir. No, sir is not there.
So he's not there, na?
Yes.
Okay. So now, with now I will really request our friend Professor Farrokh Mistree to give his talk, and his talk name is Atmanirbhar Bharat 2047 on making Indian academies institutions up in the world ranking, in moving, sorry.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you all very much for being here today, and I am particularly grateful to Damodar for inviting me to give this talk. This year is the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And in 2047, that's 25 years away, it'll be the 100th anniversary. And so that got me to thinking about what does Atmanirbhar Bharat mean in 2047? Let's speculate about that. It means self-sufficient Bharat. And in particular, I'm going to focus on Bharat becoming self-sufficient in terms of education. So hence the title on moving Indian higher education institutions up in the world rankings. I want to acknowledge 5 people who have helped me put this talk together. One is Madhusudan Chakrabarty, who has looked at the script and has given ideas in terms of how to improve it. He's from IIT Kharagpur, Metallurgy, 1971. Idal Dava, IIT Bombay, Metallurgy, 1966. Arvind Jain, IIT Kharagpur, Mechanical Engineering, 1969. Gopala Krishnan, IIT Kharagpur, Electrical and Computer Engineering, 67. And Meran Pastakia from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, who graduated in 1969. So I want to take you through what the big picture is, what I plan to cover in terms of the big picture. And so the first thing is, what is the question for today? And I want you to think about it. I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm hoping that after I've gone through this talk, we will go into a dialogue mode where we talk about 2047 and really think in terms of what can be done, what should be done, rather than saying why things can't be done. So looking forward rather than looking back. I'm going to touch upon the role of Indian higher education institutes in attaining Atmanirbhar Bharat. What is their role? In that context, I'm going to touch upon the role of a modern university. Don't think about the role of what you're doing right now, but what is the role in 2047 you would like the university to play? What is the state of research in Indian higher education institutes? I'm going to suggest that one needs to embrace basic applied and translation research. Given that we've got the question, we've come along and said, what is the role of the Indian HEIs? The next step is, what are the resources that are available? And in that context, I will touch upon the faculty, the alumni, the Government of India support, in particular the National Education Program report that was 2020, and then the notion of connectivity. For example, I'm able to give this talk from the University of Oklahoma, and people from around the world can participate in it. The fourth segment of my talk is suggesting some goals for the higher education institutes for the next 25 years. One of them being the virtual destination of choice. So instead of thinking in terms of a physical presence, thinking in terms of a virtual presence, not just in the city, state, country, but in the world. The next point is, how can one address in 2045 global and national challenges? These challenges are transdisciplinary and require collaboration. No one institution can make this happen. And I'm going to suggest that if one does follows these goals, these stretch goals, then the institution will naturally move up in the rankings. Having talked about the question, the role of the Indian higher education institutions, the resources available, the proposed goals for the next 25 years, what change is needed in the current goals? And that really deals with the idea of a change in culture. There needs to be 100% buy-in of the strategic goals by the higher education leadership and faculty. India is a top-down institution. Things that what the people at the top want, the faculty and the students will follow. And so there has to be 100% buy-in. If that doesn't exist, I don't think one can move forward. I'm going to suggest that there has to be a change in focus in two areas. One is basic research, and the other is graduate education. The third that is necessary is fostering collaboration, and then how one recruits faculty and mentors them. And this is something open for discussion. In the last segment, I will suggest a way forward with 3 bullets, and then we will go into dialogue and discussion. So the question, what should Indian higher education institutes do in the next 25 years to help India become self-reliant? Why self-reliant? Because Atmanirbhar Bharat stands for the notion of self-reliance. Second segment, I suggest that Atmanirbhar Bharat 2047, from the education perspective, calls for a paradigm shift. It calls for a paradigm shift. So what is the role of an institution when I think ahead and to 2047? What is the role of a university? I suggest that the role of a university is to provide an opportunity for students, postgraduate students, research scholars, and faculty to learn how to create intellectual wealth, economic wealth, and social wealth. So there are 3 pillars: intellectual, economic, and social. And what is the most important thing at an institution is to facilitate the maximizing the nexus between these 3. Not have these as independent verticals, but to have these three work together so that we're able to solve grand challenges of the future. So this paradigm shift is necessary both in research first and then in education. So what I'm talking about is research not just in the technical domain, but also in the pedagogical domain. So this got me, about a month ago, I came across an article that I looked at. And so the United States is viewed as being self-sufficient. So what are the lessons for self-sufficient USA? And Balaji Vishwanathan, and if you clicked on this slide, clicked on this bullet, you'll be able to go to the article. So if America is an economic superpower, why do I never see made in USA product anywhere? Everything else is made in China, Asia, and Europe. And in his short article, the key sentence that came out to me was the manufacturing that has moved out of USA tends to be low end in terms of profitability. The country makes the highest end brands in each category and has all the necessary ingredients. The United States has energy, the United States has space, the United States has talent, and the United States has research to make nearly anything. So what is my takeaway here? What do I want you to think about? Higher education institutes in India need to focus on enhancing what is under their control. So the higher education institutions in India, I suggest, need to focus on nurturing talent, undergraduate, postgraduate, faculty, and research. And this research, in my mind, needs to be focused on the creation of new knowledge. Research means different things to different people. So let's just take a look at what these definitions are. And then in the context of this, I will suggest what needs to be done. Basic research is called pure research or fundamental research. It's a type of research with the aim of improving scientific theories for better understanding and prediction of natural or other phenomena. Natural phenomena we are used to. Other phenomena are things like design, the use of artificial intelligence, etc., etc. Applied research uses scientific theories to develop technology. So applied research is used to develop technology and alter the natural or other phenomena. Though often driven simply by curiosity, basic research often fuels technological innovations of applied science. So think about your institution and say, what in your institution, what is the basic research that fuels technological innovations? Or to what extent are you taking what other people around the world have done and said, okay, I'm going to use that, and I'm now going to solve the problem that I have or that I'm focused on. And this is particularly important for the leaders of institutions because you set the tone in terms of what the faculty do. Translation research is research aimed at translating converging results in basic research into results that directly benefit humans. As such, translation research forms a subset of applied research. All three are necessary at an institution, and I invite you to think in terms of your institution, or if you're a faculty member, think in terms of in which category do you fall. I suggest that the current focus of HEIs is in applied and translation research. Here is a problem. Industry has this problem. Let me solve it using techniques that I picked up from this paper or that paper or what somebody else has done. So I'm able to solve this problem. But is this enough for Atmanirbhar Bharat? The answer is no. For Atmanirbhar Bharat, and this is a very important point I'm making, institutions of higher education need to embrace basic research that deals with the creation of knowledge, not the application of knowledge, not the use of knowledge, but the creation of knowledge in three areas. Economic, that means through development of products, entrepreneurship. Two, social knowledge in terms of how one deals with the community, how people are thinking, what's happening, what sort of social change one wants to bring about. And intellectual knowledge, that is doing basic research, fundamental research that can be published and used the world over. I suggest that this is at the very core of moving up in the rankings, and this will be a natural, if one focuses on basic research, this will be something that is natural and will move the institution up in its rankings. So what are the resources available? About a year ago, there was a paper published, and the people who worked on it were researchers at Stanford University. And what they did was they came up with a list of 100,000 researchers in all fields around the world. And they said, these are the 100,000 people who have made the biggest impact. This is not by citations. This is on a composite index. And what I did was I went through this list and I looked at IISc, IIT Bombay, IIT Goa, all the IITs, and I identified by name the faculty who are in this 100,000 list. So the names that I have identified, and they may not be complete, if you clicked on this link, you can get to them. If you want the database, it's there. And to figure out how the database was created, again, the document is there. So here's what I suggest would be appropriate. What is important is that we need faculty. This has to be faculty driven. And if you look at this, just in the IIT system, we have a huge number of faculty who are in the top 100,000 in the world. So we have the faculty. So Indian faculty have stature in the world, and my list is tiny. So way forward for the INAE Bhubaneswar chapter, I would suggest, is ensure that the list prepared by Farrokh is accurate. Identify all Indian faculty who are on the database. Identify faculty of Indian origin who are on the database, may not be working in India, but may be working elsewhere. And then create a think tank to advise with respect to Atmanirbhar Bharat 2047. And this think tank could be one that feeds into Niti Aayog. This is where policy germinates and make it happen. So one way forward, I suggest for the INAE Bhubaneswar is to look at this and move to Niti Aayog to see what can happen to lay the foundation for the next 25 years. The next thing that the chapter could do is to host a symposium to plan for the next 25 years. Invite the people from India who are in this list. Have meetings where you pull together ideas and then have a symposium to launch your plan for India and higher education institutions moving forward. The next resource I want to touch upon is the National Education Program that was published. Now, I've looked at this program, and it's very exciting. In the National Education Program 2020, 9 verticals have been identified. And I'm going to read through them. Multidisciplinary and holistic education, equity and inclusion in higher education, research, innovation, and rankings. So I've listed that. That's the third one. Research, innovation, and rankings. Global outreach of higher education. I've listed that again. A motivated, energized, and capable faculty. Integrated higher education system, governance and regulation, promotion of Indian languages, arts, and culture. 9, technology use and integration. So these are the 9 verticals that are there. And I would suggest that it would be appropriate for the leadership to look at these 9 verticals and say, how can we pull together the plans for my institution that meets the objectives of the NEP? I've listed the long-term goal, and this is very interesting to me. Long-term goals included vision statement of NEP 2020 to be successfully achieved. That is transforming HEIs into multidisciplinary universities. Multidisciplinary universities. And in the IIT system, there are 2 that come close to being multidisciplinary universities. One is the BHU system, and the other one is IIT Kharagpur. And what they've also said, which is really very exciting, is that they want to give graded autonomy to colleges through a transparent system of graded accreditation. So this notion of saying the government tells me to do this, government tells me to do this is being taken away. How is this to be done? The opportunity to unleash the talent of the faculty is just mind-boggling. All institutions say they want to be world-class, but what does world-class really truly mean in the context of the Indian system? At the institutional level, I would suggest world-class means that the HEI collaborates with top universities in the world. It's only when a top university across the world wants to collaborate with a university in India can you say you're world-class. Just because you collaborated with some podunk university here, there, or everywhere doesn't mean you're world-class. And we have to be very honest about that. I suggest that institutions, higher education institutions, set up 1 or 2 centers of excellence. Not 7, not 8, not 9, but 1 or 2 centers of excellence that they are going to be known for. And these centers of excellence collaborate with other centers of excellence in India, collaborate virtually, and then collaborate with top centers in the world. 3, I suggest some faculty at an HEI publish and co-supervise graduate students with top faculty in the world. I do not believe in memorandums of understanding. I do not believe in joint degrees because it's very difficult to have joint degrees and things like that. And I think also what is important here is that the Indian faculty need to have autonomy. It's not this business of saying everything in the West, let me just bring it in. And if you look at the National Education Program, there's an emphasis on promotion of Indian languages, arts, and culture. I think that's a very important statement. Third point is the hypothesis. My hypothesis is that value creation through research and innovation in the era of Industry 4.0 includes designing and making of goods and provision of services that a business sells to a customer. So we have the Make in India mantra, Made in India mantra. That I think is a very important thing that has been put together because what that has done is provide jobs for lots and lots and lots of people. I suggest that the Make in India is no longer adequate. We need to move to design and make in India. Why design? Because when you design, you're creating knowledge. To be able to design, you need basic research. You cannot do design without basic research. So if we had the value stream that started with design and then you make in India, India will be self-sufficient. And this is particularly important when we think in terms of arms. If India was self-sufficient in terms of making arms, not only would it be self-sufficient and not get pulled into proxy wars, but it could export what it has done and influence other countries around the world. So the second thing I suggest, first is basic research. The second is design and make in India. So the third thing is there's unprecedented connectivity. How can the HDIs make use of that and no longer think in terms of their physical 500 acres, 1,000 acres, whatever it is of buildings? Digitization that is wired in interconnected and democratized world. There are 4 C's in that. One is communication. We are doing it right now. Computation. This computation is decentralized. And India has established a phenomenal software industry, phenomenal networking capabilities to make it happen. And it's decentralized. Think in terms of the Aadhaar card. Think in terms of the passport system. This is just phenomenal. Commerce can go anywhere in the world. No longer can you say it's just Bombay or it's just Calcutta or it's just Delhi. It can happen anywhere. And then the content and knowledge creation is decentralized. We have lots of universities in India. We have lots of people and talent in India. I mean, when you think in terms of, I'm reminded by Friedman when he wrote the book World is Flat. and he met Nandan Ninkani in Bangalore. And what Nandan told him was that, hey, we have 1.3 billion people. United States has 300 million people. Let's say 5% of the people in the United States are geniuses, and 5% of the people in India are geniuses. There are going to be more geniuses in India than there are in the United States. The big difference is the opportunity that is provided in the United States as opposed to the opportunity that we provide for the Indian geniuses to succeed. But here now, where we are able to say it's decentralized, and these 5% geniuses that we have can be allowed to blossom. The next thing we should think about is network-centered economic development. What does that mean? That means that we're not looking at one center or one institute, I'm better than you or anything like that, but we're looking at a decentralized network-centered economic development. And Partha Ghosh has coined the phrase cellularization. And I think that is a very, very interesting concept to think in terms about. So if we thought of the institutions, the higher education institutions as cells, and we thought about the cells talking to each other, and we recognize what the complex interdependencies are that we can taken care through computational models, how can we make this network of cells that are higher education institutions work together to contribute to the economic development of India, which is one of the, that's called nation building, one of the things that is called for in the NEP. The NEP also, they talk about the convergence of multiple disciplines. And so we suggest one of the things that one can think in terms of is evolving cyber-physical social systems. And perhaps when Janet gives a talk in August that Damodar has invited her for, she could talk about evolving cyber-physical social systems if there is interest. Why do we say evolving cyber-physical social systems? All grand challenges can be modeled as a cyber computer, physical, there's a physical component to it, and we do these two things for community. Solutions to cyber-physical social systems involve the government, industry, and community. So we are able to model, that's a hypothesis, the cyber side of it, the physical side of it, and the social side of it. So we can model what the government wants, what the industry wants, what the community wants. Now the beauty is to find the nexus between that which the government wants, industry wants, and community wants. And if we did that, then we will be able to address social justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. And if there's an interest in exploring this further, Janet and I could give you a talk on that. This necessitates the creation and monitoring and adapting policies over time. So if we started with Niti Aayog, and the government came out with a policy, then these policies, and we have sensors, and we gather data, and India is very good at that. This new data, how do we make use of it in real time so that we can modify the policy to make it happen? Therefore, what we are looking at are evolving, self-organizing cyber-physical social systems. And this could be a goal for Indian higher education institutions. Now, what does this do? This impacts the training of undergraduates and the education of graduate students. There's a difference between training and education. When you train a person, you show the person how to solve a problem. You cannot educate a person. All you can do is to provide an opportunity for a person to educate himself or herself. Regrettably, the postgraduate programs in India, all of them, the student takes 1 year of courses. In the second year, they do some sort of a thesis. At the PhD level, there's some more courses and they do some more research. And I have looked at a number of PhDs from India, and to me, they do not really meet the criterion of having created new knowledge. A PhD that has been given typically means the person has solved a very complicated problem using things from here, there, and everywhere. And there's nothing wrong in that. But that does not deal with the creation of knowledge. This needs to be paid attention to. So what are the goals for HEIs for the next 25 years? The hypothesis is that a grand challenge can be modeled as a cyber-physical social system. And so you can look at development, national development as a cyber-physical social system, healthcare as a cyber-physical social system, just like SOA University has done. Precision agriculture can be looked at as a cyber-physical social system. So the key is to create the means of modeling the cyber-physical social system. So the proposition is that the HEIs collaborate within India to be world leaders through various undertakings and offerings as a cyber-physical social system. Now, this will then facilitate interactions between world leaders in three categories, namely institute to institute or center to center and faculty to faculty. So here is a value proposition. To make this happen, what is needed? And you will see that as I've gone through, I've said 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. So I have 10 points that I'm going through, and each of them is open for discussion. So the first is we need a cloud-based InnoHub to support distributed open innovation in advanced design and manufacturing of value. What do I mean by open innovation? There's no issue of patent. There is no issue of going along and saying, aha, we are going to use data that is proprietary. We're doing it in the open sphere. We're using data that already exists. So a cloud-based InnoHub to support distributed open innovation in advanced design and manufacturing. And how would you use this cloud-based InnoHub? And this ties again to what is called for in the National Education Program Report for 2020. For personnel in industry research laboratories, so we visualize that industry will have research laboratories. Government already has research laboratories, and research faculty and students from around the world could be drawn to this InnoHub. For consultancy projects from Indian industry, there is an emphasis where the Indian Institute of Technology in particular have been asked to say, what are you doing for small and medium-sized corporations? Well, you could run consultancy projects from the InnoHub using information not just generated by one IIT, but put there by a consortium of IITs to solve problems that will help small and medium-sized industry. And through that, provide an extension service to these small and medium-sized companies. In other words, there may not be a professor involved. Maybe there's a subscription, and the people in the small and medium-sized companies can go to the hub and use the information to make it happen, or they could pose a problem and somebody could say, hey, I can solve this, I know how to do it. So we would use social media type activities to make that happen. Now, since I'm familiar with IIT Kharagpur, I've used, and IIT Kharagpur has adopted this creating centers of excellence. So if we had centers as catalysts of the cyber-physical social systems, there's Advanced Manufacturing Center, which is the physical aspect of it. There's a Center for Excellence in AI, which is the cyber aspect of it. The Humanities and the Social Sciences Department brings in the social side of it. VG-SOM brings in the social aspects of it from the business and economics perspective. The Rajendra Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law brings in the social aspect from the law side. And there's a Rural Development Center that could link the technologies to benefit the rural population. This is just by way of example of how one can create the centers, the appropriate centers that the Institute of the Higher Education Institute wishes to focus on, and then collaborate with other higher education institutions to round off their capabilities and focus on this notion of distributed cellular development of basic research and move to becoming world-class. So what are the change the current goals and focus? The big question that comes up is, why would successful faculty change? Why would successful faculty change? So think in terms of the IITs. The faculty feel that they are successful. Why would they change? What is the motivation for them to change? Okay. So if you have successful faculty who are publishing, who meet the requirements, stuff like that, they're not going to change. So what we need out there is to empower faculty to follow different career paths. Basic fundamental research, plus technology development, plus consultancy, plus teaching, plus administration. So in other words, at the higher education institutions, the leadership needs to think in terms of how to empower faculty to do basic and fundamental research, technology development, consultancy, teaching, and administration. One faculty member can't do all of these things. But what is important is to say, as an institution, we have created a environment where we nurture faculty who wish to pursue these different career paths. We need to reinforce the mantra that a higher education institute seeks to be a destination of choice, virtual or physical. In other words, what you're looking for is a pull economy. You're looking to attract people. You're not pushing yourselves, you're looking to attract people, because if you're good, people will come to you no matter where you are. For university-based research and technology development, and seeks to rise in the world rankings. The third, and this ties into the NEP 2020 policy that the government has come up with, is to facilitate and promote transdisciplinary research. Transdisciplinary doesn't mean that a mechanical engineer talks to an electrical engineer. What it truly means is that engineers talk to people in the humanities and the social sciences. People in the humanities and social sciences work together with engineers to address these grand challenges. Cluster hiring and mentoring policies. So you can't make old dogs learn new tricks, but you're hiring new people. Hire them in a cluster. We want to have a cluster that is going to look at digital engineering. We want a cluster that is going to do X, Y, and Z, and then mentor them, and then don't pull them into doing what the older generation wants them to do. That is, in essence, consultancy. Unburden assistant professors from service-related activities. I think it is ridiculous for an assistant professor to be sent to supervise JEE exams. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a waste of his time or her time. And then I think it's important to restructure graduate education. For example, when we bring in a graduate student to work with us, from day one, the person is introduced to doing research. Within the first year, our graduate student has turned out a paper that gets published at an international conference. This is totally doable. And this builds up a rapport between the guide and the graduate student. Point 9. So this is about embracing strategic goals. Establish collaborative arrangements with 3 topmost research centers in the world. Support HEI's contribution to nation building through up-to-date and appropriately oriented undergraduate and postgraduate education. This goes beyond training. This is not just a technical thing as to how you solve this problem or that problem, or introduce one more course or take out one course. This deals with developing within the student population non-technical competencies. For example, learn how to learn, unlearn, relearn. Learn how to speculate, learn how to ask questions, learn how to make decisions using incomplete information, learn how to think critically. And if you're interested, Janet and I can give you a talk on that in the future. So support HEI's contribution to industry workforce through consultancy and technology transfer, to economic development through startups and job creations, to educate leaders with a social conscience in academia, government, and industry. I think this is extremely important. So the Partha Ghosh Academy that has been started at IIT Kharagpur is a step in the right direction, because what we're looking at is educating leaders. Not everybody can or should be a leader. But what is important is to educate leaders with a social conscience. And these leaders, we don't have to jump up and down and say, oh, you went to an institute of technology, you have to continue doing that. These leaders with a social conscience can go into academia, they can go into government, they can go into industry, they can stop being engineers, they can become policymakers. So I think we have to encourage that. And certainly some of them can go to small and medium-sized enterprises. This is at the institute level, and these goals can be adopted at the center level as well. So here are some targets for the centers. They want to collaborate with top research universities and pick certain countries: Japan, North America, and UK, Europe. But top research centers, 10 top faculty in the world, cutting edge industry research in 3 emerging fields, non-commoditized applications. This is extremely important. And then, of course, you can come up with ratios which will naturally follow if you're doing basic research, like so many PhDs graduated per year. And these PhDs have to be quality PhDs in terms of the creation of knowledge, not just the solving of problems. Journal papers in competitive journals, not something that was has the title international in it, but has no value really. Target funding, faculty ratio, etc., etc. So these can come up at that level. So now I come to the most difficult portion, and that is where I think we can have a real dialogue. We want to work with enlightened HEI leaders, and this is across institutions, to create ownership of strategic move to basic research. Basic research is something that cannot be just done in one institution. It is something that you collaborate with. So, for example, IIT Kharagpur could collaborate with IIT Bhubaneswar, or IIT Kanpur could collaborate with IIT Bombay, or IIT Bombay could collaborate with IIT Gandhinagar to form consortia in India to span basic, applied, and translation research. Now, all this will be put into a hub. If you don't have a hub, this cannot be done. The other thing is to work with the government of India to reach consensus that the strategy is naturally consistent with the National Education Policy 2020, not piecemeal, but the leadership needs to work, or the leadership of the consortia need to work with the government of India to reach consensus. It may be through Niti Aayog, it may be directly. I don't know how that is to be done. Perhaps Damodar, who has a lot of experience, can talk about this thing. And then the third one is to engage and motivate alumni to contribute expertise, research projects, contacts, and funds. What I have been involved with the alumni, and all alumni are very happy to say, I will mentor students, I will tell them this, that, and the other thing. My gut feeling is that for the majority of them, their experience is anchored in the old paradigm, the paradigm of the last century, not appropriate for 2021. But what they can do is to say, aha, I can contribute expertise in this area. I can contribute research projects for my company in this area. I can give you contacts, and certainly I can give you funds. I can serve on advisory boards. So this is the way forward. So now I'm going to my closing remarks. The key question that I posed was, what should Indian HEIs do in the next 25 years to help India become self-reliant? And I've identified 10 points. Observations. A person, institution, company can mark time for a short period after which it is left behind. This is a natural law. So if you're complacent, if you're happy with what you're doing, you're going to be left behind. The central government has put forth the NEP 2020 document and has shown its desire to move up in the ranking. It's very clear in the document. For an institution to change, the institutional leadership must be dissatisfied. If it is satisfied, there is going to be no change. Through benchmarking against top institutions in the world and also top institutions in India, with the current state, and must want to move towards a new state. So when you want to move towards a new state, you need to put in place a plan for continuous improvement. Because if you don't have this plan for continuous improvement, the strategic plan will come up and that'll be the end of it. And when you go for continuous improvement, there must be measures to fix things, to move things forward, to reward people, to tell other people you're not moving up, you're not doing the appropriate things, etc. The leadership at India's established HEIs can embrace stretch goals proposed or continue along the trajectory to excellence that they believe they are on today. There is no reason to just say, hey, guess what? This institute is great, so it has to lead this consortium. In this cellularized, decentralized concept that I'm putting forward to you, the leadership at India's younger and future institutions can leverage their asset of newness to boldly pursue aspirations embodied in the NEP 2020 and thence be recognized as world-class leaders. In other words, because of communication, because of the internet, because of all this thing, the hierarchy of leadership in India is under challenge, and we need to challenge that. And so we need to look at the private institutions. For example, the tech people have started private institutions. Shiv Nada has started a private institution. Azim Premji has started a private institution. JKL Industries has set up a company-sponsored university using CSR funds. Ambanis have set up an institution, Navi Bombay, looking at a different way of doing things. These could be the crucibles, the petri dishes of innovation for higher education in India. So I would like you to think about this. So the key question then I've talked about this. It's about time to act. So the key question I'm posing to you is, how can you, the individual, catapult HEIs to be the virtual destination of choice for research and technology development? I've offered 10 points for your consideration in this talk. Now, what is important is I'm not interested in knowing why it cannot be done or what has happened or what you tried to do and failed. I want you to speculate about 2047. And what matters in this dialogue is what you envision education in 2047 to be. And then one can say, if this is the vision for 2047 and we agree on that, we can then ask the question, how can we achieve that particular vision? So if you are motivated to get involved in joining the HEI Atmanirbhar Bharat, I invite you to turn on your cameras and wave your hands. This is a very important aspect. So turn on your cameras and wave your hands. Right. Oops. Have I lost you?
No, you've got us all. You're there, sir.
Can you see me? Not see me?
Yes, sir. We can see you, sir.
Oh boy, I've lost control. Can you stop me sharing, please?
Purun Dang from Boston, I am with you. Farrokh ji.
Okay. So if you're waving, that would be very nice. I can't see how many people are waving. Ah, here it is. So turn on your lights. How many of you are waving that you really want to do this? Very good. So we've got people doing. PK Mishra, are you interested or no? PK Mishra, do you want to join this thing or no? Okay, he's waving. Very good. So then let us go to a dialogue with a purpose. Dialogue with a purpose. To further the 5-year proposed goals, what do you see yourself doing? Don't tell me so-and-so should do this, so-and-so should do this, administration should do this, government should do this. Tell me what you will do in the next 3 months, other than what you're doing now. Don't tell me what you're doing now. Yeah. Tell me what your goal is, and tell me what you will be doing to achieve that goal in the next 3 months, not 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And that is limited to 1 minute. 1 minute, because we want lots and lots of people to talk. We have 30 minutes left, 31 minutes left. So we want 30 people to talk, and there are about 20 people on this thing. So 1 minute each. No long stuff, no things. I've done this, I've done that. I'm a great guy. I'm not interested in that. I want you to tell me what your vision for 2047 is, and then what you in the next 3 months are willing to do. And somebody will take notes, like Renu will take notes. She will put it together and circulate it to everybody. So the more we get here, the better. So with that, who'd like to start first?
Purun Dang from Boston. First, I would like to say my namaste to you as well as my admirable director, Damodar Acharya ji. And when you say in the next 3 months, you know, we had a session few days ago. My goal will be, which you covered too, that we have to produce leaders. And you talked about producing leaders in basic research, in economics, in social. I get that. That is wonderful. But we should have a systematic training to create leaders of India and of the world. And Partho Ghosh Academy has this thing. But we have to move fast. And this should be part of education. And we should isolate some very bright
Puran,
students.
I'm asking you, what will you do? Don't tell me what we should do.
No, my goal will be to promote Partho Ghosh Academy to produce leaderships. This is my goal.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. PK Mishra, go ahead. You've got your hand up. Anybody? PK Mishra, do you have your hand up? Can't hear you, you're muted.
Professor Mistree, please unmute.
Unmute yourself. Okay. Who else would like to say things? PK Mishra is muted. We can't hear him. Who else would like to say something? Think about the future. Think about 2047 and what you will do in the next 3 months.
Myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
PK Mishra.
Yes, go ahead.
Please go
Okay.
ahead.
You're audible, sir,
Now,
please.
I thank you very much for your excellent lecture. But my aim is slightly different in building characters in the educational institutes.
Okay.
And the
So your
character
goal is
have to be
to
built.
create character. Very good. We've taken it down. Who's next?
Characters within the institute to promote the students to make a leader in future.
Great. So we've
Yes.
talked about leadership. Puran, you've got a person in PK Mishra. Perhaps the two of you should get together and say, how should the Partha Ghosh Academy move forward or whatever it is. Very good. Who's next?
Because the students have to build the future.
I've
We have
heard you. I've heard you. We need to create leaders. Done. Who's next? Madhusudan, Damodar, Rajalakshmi, Ashok, Ravinder.
Professor Mistree, I want to add, I'll educate myself and my students rather than training, because I think training they are doing, but I think education is most important.
So what
That
you're
is
saying
all.
is provide an opportunity to educate students to become leaders, provide an opportunity for education, for educating students to develop economic wealth, social wealth, and
Yes,
intellectual wealth. Not train
yes.
them, but educate them. The training is necessary because they have to go out and solve this problem or that problem or the other problem. Renu, you got that? Who's next?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Tripathi here. Sir, can I will just take 1 minute. I agree with you, whatever you tell mostly, but the standard of the teachers in the engineering colleges today in India is so bad that without a continuous education and training to them, their standard will remain poor. So my task will be to organize through IEEE forum, a forum that will evaluate the quality of research in the institutes and try to improve them. So we are trying to make as many members as possible, and we are also conducting number of seminars and number of training to these people so that they come up to a status where they can produce good research.
In the national education program thing here, that's one of the things that I've written, that there needs to be an organization for educating professors of the future. It's here. And for example, at the University of Bath, at the University of Liverpool, before the person gets tenure, they have to go through an 18-month training program as to how to teach, about pedagogy, about how to deal with students, how to deal with all sorts of stuff. It's 18 months and they actually get a diploma for that. So perhaps something along those lines. Renu, that would be very nice. Having
Yes.
something that where we provide a resource for educators to educate themselves in terms of how to teach. A PhD is not sufficient. You need to have that training. Thank you, Ashok. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Karishma.
I'd like to offer my skills from the Ultimate Achievements Academy here in London to help people communicate their thought process. In doing so, to develop a clearer thought process themselves to approach and communicate the solution of the problem. This is critical.
So the ability to give elevator pitches for venture capitals, 1 minute talk, 3 minutes talk as to what you're doing. For example, there's a phenomenal competition. It's called the 3-minute thesis. It was started in Australia, and universities around the world participate in it. There's one slide, only one slide, 3 minutes, and the person comes along and says, "This is my dissertation," and it's a worldwide competition. To coach people for that. When you talk to professors, they'll come along and you say you have 1 minute, they'll talk for 10 minutes. And at the end, they don't answer the question that you posed to them. So how do you make that happen? How do you educate folks to make a 1 minute presentation, a 3-minute presentation, a 10-minute presentation? Most conferences now have 10-minute presentations, 20-minute presentation, and also give a lecture that goes for 1 hour or 1 hour, 15 minutes. How do you do that? And so this is a skill, and Karishma is very good at that, extremely good at that. So we need something like that, developing these non-technical competencies, the ability to communicate with people, persuade people across the spectrum. Excellent. Who's next? Ravinder Bhatia. Thank you. Who else's hand is up?
Farrokh, may I take 1 or 2 minutes?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to also say that when you really quoted 1 lakh, things, that is Stanford research things here, it is not only IITs, even some smaller institutions are also doing pretty well. For example, my own university here, we have 13 out of that 1 lakh. I think even smaller places also can really do well and they can contribute. This is just a correction. But so far as your very specific question is concerned, that is what I could do. My present concern is only how to make other institutions better in whichever way that actually we can do, whether it is in the form of research or projects or whatever it is. So, and then I'm involved in a couple of institutions, not only at the higher education level, but even at basic training level. And this is what actually I would like to pursue for the rest of my life.
Fantastic. So we've got a volunteer to lead this thing further, and I've made some suggestions for the Bhubaneswar chapter to go through that list and pick up people from all over the world of Indian origin, including other institutions in India, and come up with that big list, share that with the rest of the world, write stories on them, do storytelling, stuff like that, write blogs, etc. Fantastic idea. Ravinder Bhatia.
Hi, I'm from Princeton, ex-IIT Kharagpur. Unfortunately, I'm not involved presently or ever in my life in the educational field, so I have no solid comments to make. Thank you very much, Farrokh.
Okay. Who's next? Anybody else?
Madhusudan sir has raised
Yeah,
hand.
Madhusudan, great.
Hi, Farrokh. Thanks for a mesmerizing lecture. I attended your lecture last time also. And again, I'm very valid points. When you come to me about asking a question, what I can do, I need a platform to do something. And I have been supporting the Boston Pledge, of which Partha Ghosh is the chairman. and I am organizing programs under the conferences or on education under the Education Springboard program. We have organized number of webinars under the Zoom meetings on different topics on education. And since I have been in education all my life, I'll try to contribute to the changes that we need in the higher education system. Thank you.
So you've got Puran who's talking about leadership. We've got Damodar who's talking about improving, getting other institutions up and doing things, and Madhusudan who's talking about improving the helping faculty learn how to teach better. Wonderful. So who's next? Anybody else?
Farrokh, I have
Yeah.
give me 25 seconds. You know, you have suggested wonderful ideas as to what to do next 25 years to take India to the top in education, in economic, intellectual, and social. And my point is how to unlock. Supposing there is a great idea, but if you want to implement, whether in IIT or a higher education institute or something, you go to the government and that will take 1 year. A wonderful idea. Can you suggest to the government of India they should make a special center if there is a great idea which comes from you, me, or anybody? That idea, if it is good, it should not go into the rails of the bureaucracy, but it should be implemented. I tell you, that will make India the greatest in the world. There are a lot of intellectuals in America, India, everywhere. And this implementation, I think in your talk, you should add implementation, rapid implementation. This is my request to you.
Good. So Puran, you've raised an interesting issue, and let me respond to that. See, what I'm looking at is the power of people. I'm not looking at top down. I've said it's decentralized. A good idea, if it is a good idea, will be picked up and will be implemented independent of the government. That's the idea. This is the power of the people. This is not going along and saying, government, give me permission to make that happen. And the government has said that they're going to give autonomy to institutions, greater autonomy. So no longer is it going to be to say, aha, AICTE told me this or AICTE told me that. It is up to the institution to come along to make things happen, form partnerships with industry, form partnerships with NGOs to make things happen. So
But
what is lacking in my mind is the vision of the leadership at the higher education systems. And I see that happening in Shiv Nadar University. I see that happening at IIT Gandhinagar. I believe it will happen at BHU because Sudhir Jain has moved from IIT Gandhinagar to BHU. These are the sorts of things that happen. So it's not an issue of saying, oh, the government has to do this. Now, the other thing which you've touched upon, which is very important, is how government has funded research. The government has funded research, and there's an article that I've referenced here by my son. By the money being given to government research institutions, and a huge amount of money goes to the government research institutions. And these government research institutions, their focus is on publishing papers and coming up with patents. It doesn't go further. And in his paper, he's compared IIT Bombay, the amount of money that they have received, the number of papers and patents that they have gotten, with what the entire system has done. Now, the government is moving towards making grants competitive. That's a step in the right direction. However, the government has put bureaucrats on the committees to hand out these grants. These bureaucrats have great administrative, big dadas, all this sort of stuff, but they don't have the technical expertise about the next generation research that's needed. So if we had something like the National Science Foundation, or the EPSRC as in the United Kingdom, or the Australian Research Grants Commission as we have in Australia, if we had something like that in India, where it is faculty, peer faculty reviewing these grants and saying, yes, this is a good idea. The government gives the money, fine. But it is the faculty and people who review these grants for technical merit. Then I think the ecosystem will go on. I would like to have the government say, this is policy, which is what the government has done. Here is the money, this is what the government has done. And then put it in the hands of the faculty, the researchers, to come up with organizations that will make it happen. So I'm not in favor of what you've said. It is not that the government has to do this. The government is transforming itself. It's put Niti Aayog in place. We have a place to go to and say, Niti Aayog, here's a way to make this happen. Anybody else? So, Madhu.
Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
What I want to tell you is that if you have a new idea, other thing that you want to do, normally the top-down approach does not work. You have to have the buy-in of the faculty members, particularly the young ones, who are willing to accept new ideas. When the faculty members, they work, they look for ideas, and whenever an idea comes to them, they are willing to work. What they need is support. As Farrokh has rightly said, it's funding. The government of India is funding. It's not the government of India is not funding. You have Department of Science and Technology, you have Council of Scientific Industrial Research, we have Department of Biotechnology, we have Atomic Energy Commission, we have Department of Defense, Atomic Army Technology Board. People are supporting. So people have to write projects with the new ideas, and they are working in those areas. But as Farrokh has rightly said, that they carry out some work, they write papers, and then they publish it, or they patent it, and that's it. What is required in India is kind of a hand-holding between the industry and the higher education institutions, and that is not happening the way it is happening in other countries. I have been a visiting professor at the University of Warwick, where late Lord Bhattacharya was there, and there I found the industries are putting a lot of money in the university where research is going on. I know about more than 200 engineers from Tata's. They were working in the University of Warwick for their problems, but that kind of thing has not happened in India. Well, I'm not saying that it will not happen. It will happen in future. The industries have to have the confidence in Indian faculty, and Indian faculty have to agree to work with with a kind of speed that the industry require. So it's not going to happen in a day, but it will happen. Only thing, the Indian industries also have to come forward to help the institutes. I think Professor Acharya, he is here, he will agree with me, because we have been from IIT Kharagpur, we have been trying to get funding from industries, but the majority of the sponsored research funds come mostly from the funding agencies, from the different department of the government of India.
I would like to add one or two small things to what Professor Chakraborty said. It is true that the organizations like DST, DBT, etc., they fund research in India, and possibly in the new education policy, that National Science Foundation actually, which is being formed, possibly the funding structure actually will change. But what is more important is that to do any meaningful research and to come out with some good design product or anything of that sort, you require sustained effort for a longer period in, say, certain areas. But all our projects, they are all of 3 months, 3 years duration, and with X amount of money. And you cannot really produce anything meaningful. And this way the things cannot work. The second important thing, what is I would like to focus is that our institutions must also change their metric of evaluation. Now
Right.
so far as the faculty are concerned, they are evaluated based on how many papers you have published, how many PhDs you have produced, what is this patent you have got, and all these things. This cannot be the approach. And faculty always really takes actually path of least resistance. These are the easy things to do. So I will produce so much thick, then I will become associate professor, from assistant professor to associate professor, then professor. But then thereafter I will stop working. This actually cannot work. This culture has to change in our institutional setup, and we can do so provided actually we are committed to it. One more thing which I would like to say, that because few institutions that were good institutions like IITs that we think of, anything on the earth actually we dump on them. Very recent thing I would like to mention, that we have the problem of actually school teachers. Now, what actually the government has come out with the brilliant idea that IITs actually should actually provide 4 years B.Ed courses. Are we really competent to teach, say, the school children? Do we have the expertise? Just because some institution is good, we give all types of job, and really the things cannot be we cannot just go on dumping anything that you want to do and expect this institution to do well. After all, the time of the teachers is actually the same. They cannot make a 24 hours day to something like 28 hours a day. And they may not be the best in that thing it's teaching at school. So this type of thing, wherever that we find a problem, it is only IITs we will solve. Thereby, actually, we try to bring down our institution. I think government also has to think about it, and so also our leadership. I think we can do a lot. It is possible, and we have the potentiality. Only thing, we have to definitely work together, particularly the government policies also should work together, because ultimately all these good institutions, they depend on government for their sustenance. There is no other way that these institutions can survive. And for excellence, one has to think that what we could really do and what we should not do.
Can I say, can I take 10 seconds?
Please, please.
I think
Yes.
now it's open. I've stopped this 1 minute thing. People can say whatever.
Now we have talked much that we are going in a top-down process. Okay, why not we try bottom-up process, right from the low level to the up process? We're not trying that on. Everything now, the world is going to run with that system, bottom-up process, because 25 years, a person can serve the country to the best. Now we educate the children first, being a mindset, then build the institution or anything. With that, those people, not with the old haggards and with the men completely gone down, and they will dictate your education has to be like this. I don't agree to the that type of top-down process. Type of bottom-up process. Let's see, everything will be all right.
I
Thank
think,
you.
Professor Mistree, I have said the same thing. You have to have the mind of the young people. I say the same.
Mindset has to be created. Without the mindset, nothing can be done.
No, all of us actually we agree to that we have to actually train the young thing, but the system must actually permit that.
No, see,
Presently,
that has to be
the
done.
system is actually
That's
the other way.
look at the
Everything is
people.
dumped from the top. And even actually they decide what to do.
No, they also decide how to teach.
Now everybody is taking RPT. What is RPT prototyping?
No. They said,
Not
what is the need of a
up
teacher?
Bottom up
Everything is
process.
available in the net.
Yes.
So
And
You
they
have to
can
see
always
what
actually
the student needs, what the faculty
Let me
needs.
suggest something.
Okay.
All of us who are talking have white hair. You folks know some people who don't have white hair on this list. Why don't you invite them and say, what is it that you are taking away from today's talk? So the non-white hair people will be able to express their things. So I don't know who the non-white hair people are because they haven't turned their cameras on.
Camera on.
No, I find only 2 non-white hair fellows here.
Okay, so Renu, go ahead. What is your takeaway from this conversation? Because I can see you and you're non-white hair.
Thank you, sir. It's my proud privilege to speak on this platform. My takeaway from this is like one has to focus on interdisciplinary research, translational research, because it's going to work not only from the basic, but ultimately going to enrich the economic wise and also going to help the society. And also, when we are focusing on this, we will be definitely improving the communication, which is the very fundamental thing which we are lacking either in the basics or at an institutional level. Whenever we want to promote any program, we need to communicate very in good proficiency. That is the objective. And also, my takeaway from this is we have to support all those programs which are helping us to be an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else closing statements? Sudhastawa Basu.
No, it was enjoying listening to all of you. I think we always debate, but on the ground, the reality is different. And we probably need to work hard. That's the one simple goal, I would say, that in all levels, from starting from the school, university, institutes, colleges, we have to really work hard, all of us, all the students, teachers, professors, and administrators, everything, everybody has really need to work, and we not necessarily work what the Western world has done, not necessarily follow them all the way, but we can have our own way because we have numerous problems here in India, with big population to be cater, resources crunch, and of course the financial power, everything together. It's a difficult problem, and we have a democratic government, so it's cannot be done the way the many other countries have done it. So it's a difficult situation, or it's a complex situation. So only one mantra could be work hard. That's it. And do your duty, do your part. I think many of us don't do our part. We take salary, and so that's the one thing I would say.
Anybody else to do a closing statements? We have 3 minutes more, so closing statements. Puran, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Puran, you're muted.
Puran, you're muted.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Puran, we can definitely hear you.
My closing statement is that this was a very thought-provoking discussion. And thanks to Farrokh, and I am very pleased to see some of my mentors and friends like Professor Damodar Acharya. My respect to him. And it was a wonderful
Thank
talk
you so much.
and lot of ideas, but it will lead to some substantial changes. And I compliment Farrokh for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Karishma, yeah, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Farrokh, for 2 things. One is for being so systematic and laying out the strengths of India today. Second, for helping us leverage that so that what we have, we can take to the next step. Thirdly, for giving us this package of slides where your the 9 points of the Indian vision can be aligned to the 6 points that you have in your step-by-step method. And finally, for giving us a vision that we can believe in if we can network and pull together and share information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, one thing that I would like to say, that given the intellectual capital that this country has, the other resources that it has, and 1.4 billion people that cannot really afford to fail with all our, bottlenecks, whatever that you may think of, shortcomings of democracy, this, that, etc., interference. It may take only little time, but nobody can really prevent us from going to the top. Whether we can have it in, say, 25 years, or it may be, say, 30 years, we will definitely be there. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, and it's going to happen. So with this thing, may I now request our Professor P.K. Nanda, our Pro Vice Chancellor, to propose a vote of thanks for Professor Nanda, please.
So thank you, sir. It was an honor to listen to Professor Farrokh Mistree on a quite vibrant and much talked about topic, NEP and also the Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think it's quite it gives me immense pleasure to know that Professor Farrokh Mistree is well kind of updated with the scenario of Government of India. And the Government of India has conducted several meetings on this 2047. How to move forward with the secretary and all directors of IITs, and including our university also joined there. And it's quite very much indeed happy to note that the much talked about the transformation in education, about the younger kids, older, find out loopholes, everything for decades together, and thinking that we must be as par with the top-notch universities or top-notch like countries or the continents. Government of India has the top taken a note of it and has laid out the program. So therefore, the mindset also Government of India has loudly time and again lauded the change of mindset right from the bottom to the top leadership. And I think which Professor Farrokh Mistree has lauded in his talk. And this is quite gratifying to listen that Professor Farrokh Mistree is concerned in 2047 and give a lot of kind of measures, kind of ways, kind of takeaways, kind of way forward for our country to excel. I believe there are much workshop, conferences, seminars, talks at government level, at university level about these NEPs, including our esteemed advisors, chairman of our Professor Damodaraj also gave talk on NEP on our university. In our university, our faculty members attended. And there is a lot of expectation from NEP. Even the school children are expecting from NEP. So there is a mindset change happening. And it is indeed happy to note that there is a mindset change happening also at the younger level. So therefore, it's good discussion, and Professor Farrokh Mistree had good thoughts. I do believe that one day in near future, and many of the university are trying to implement part of the NEP and trying to save the career. Students also are expecting to know NEP, and they're also expecting NEP to happen, so that they're also thinking they will be as par with the graduates of the world. That's a very good sign right from the top, and the university is trying to embrace. At this juncture, Professor Farrokh Mistree enlightened on different way forward for Atmanirbhar Bharat in 2047, which Government of India also has laid out. This is indeed very interesting and very lucid presentation, and thought-provoking and active participation of many leaders in this forum. I think they have really contributed to our country and to the locality. So I really thank Professor Farrokh Mistree for kind of inspiring us, and also kind of triggering the participation of the top leaders present here, and the discussion on this. And I believe this vibration, this kind of vibrant environment will definitely take a university forward and the country forward, and also the people forward. And I believe liked very much the kind of the cyber physical social system approach from the cyber physical system approach much talked about. of Professor Farrokh Mistree. Thank you, Professor Mistree, on behalf of INE local chapter, Bhubaneswar chapter, on behalf of SOA, on behalf of IMMT. I extend my heartfelt thanks, and also profuse thanks on behalf of all three institutes to you for sharing your vision, thought, and guidance. Thank you very much. I thank all the leaders who participated, including Professor Damodar Acharya, who is spearheading this and invited Professor Farrokh Mistree to share and spare his time with us. I thank all other INE distinguished fellows to share their ideas, views to take this country forward. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Friends, I will just request Dr. Sanat Kumar to speak a word, because he is one person who has really attended all the, seminars that we have been conducting under this banner. Please.
Thank you, sir.
If you
Can
like.
you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. You are
Okay.
perfectly audible.
Far from being a dark-haired fellow, I am a bald man.
I'm getting that too.
No, some of us may look like that we are having some hair, but in fact it is too few.
Okay. So now in 1962, when I graduated, I decided that I want to be not an academic. And I had an opportunity to join the Department of Atomic Energy, which was very, very interesting for me. And India was coming up in that. So I joined Department of Atomic Energy in 1962. And after 37 years, I retired from there in 2001. So during that process, I learned more and more about less and less. I went on specializing. So this is what happened. So now you are talking about improvements in universities and improvements in teaching. I really probably am not a very proper person to talk about it, very experienced in this. But one thing I can tell you from an engineer scientist's point of view, who has interviewed during his 37 years of lifetime several hundred university graduates wanting to join Department of Atomic Energy. Generally, if you see in the newspaper, the crib is that people from universities joining in are not ready for a job. I totally disagree with this. It is not correct to say that they are not ready for a job. There are several things that you can learn only in a job. So as soon as you come, if you think that you are ready for being a chief engineer or assistant engineer or anything, it is totally wrong. I went through the process, learned only in the office, and came up. I ended up as being an executive director in my organization. So this is what I want to say. So universities are teaching very well as far as I am concerned. In 1962, I studied in a college, engineering college in Coimbatore. They gave me top class information. That is the foundation from which I was able to build. How to design a bolt, how to design a nut, how to design a ball bearing. Yeah, beautiful things I learned there. And therefore, I would say universities are doing a pretty good job. There's nothing wrong with them. You teach enough theory, and I don't think it should be the aim of a university to make a fellow job good for a job immediately on his joining. So this is what I would like to say, and I think I have taken too much of your time. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
No, we fully agree with you that the so-called recruiters, they are not willing to even spend one day, and they want the fellow to be, say, on the job right from day one, and all this training has to be really done by the university. It is just not possible. And your observation is 100% correct. I do agree.
The student has to be ready to work on the field. Otherwise, nothing will work.
That is enough.
That is what is required, and I have learned this quite well. So I think this has to be inculcated in the students right in the university itself. You tell your students, Don't think just because you join something, next day you will become a chief engineer. That is not possible.
So we turn out graduates who learn how to learn. And if they know how to learn, they can pick up any job.
Exactly. If you let me tell you a story, 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. I will just take it 2 minutes. See, in our organization, every promotion is based on an interview. We have interview. Interview is on technical matters. You go and tell them, sir, I have done this, this, and this. This is what I have designed. This is what I have done. So in my interview, one interviewer asked, I had designed a carriage of a very heavy machine. So the fellow said, how would you decide the diameter of the wheel? Can you write the formula? Then I told him, sir, I cannot write the formula on the board, but I know where to look for the formula. So I will look for the formula and do this. I know how to go about designing a wheel. So I know how to do this. I will do this. That person didn't like my answer. I was about to be dropped on that interview, but maybe my other answers helped me out. So this is the story. One has to know where to look for information. If university gives that information, that is more than enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Farrokh. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm ready to.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining this evening. And with this, officially ending this meeting over here, I would like to hear many more webinars from your end. And we had a very wonderful discussion. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, the esteemed guests present today evening. Thank you.
We have next seminar from him and Janet in August.
Thank you.
They have already promised.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
So feel free to share the slides that I have circulated. And
Yes.
Janet and I are very
Farrokh, do we
happy
have the
to
permission to
communicate.
share your slides to each others?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
yes. I do everything in the public domain. So share it.
Okay.
You can put this thing on YouTube. I'll take the brickbats and bouquets or whatever comes along.
No,
I
we'll
stand
put
by
on
what I
YouTube.
said.
We'll put on YouTube, and link will be provided to us. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to talk to people, engage you, communicate with you. I'd love to do that. So Puran Dang, for example, has got me to think. He's challenged me. Madhu has challenged me. So we are moving in the right direction. And Karishma, thank you very much for the summary. That was lovely in terms of exactly what I wanted to get across. So with that, thank you all very much. Thank you, Renu.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to
Thank you, sir.
seeing you in person
Namaste.
sometime.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.